Now, in part 2, we get more into the Janet we know. Get more into that control. That first album, we don't even acknowledge that first album. I don't know one song from Janet's first album. That second one, though, we get into the second one. Now, getting into part 2 of this documentary, I was like, I'm not about to play with y'all. I was glad that at that moment, her family decided to address it. But the whole secret baby thing, I was like, we know there is no secret baby. We leave off from part 2 with her being a part of the Fame cast, getting to know Debbie Allen, and her being, the budding star, but just kind of taking a step back in a little rebellion with the marriage. But at this point, it's just like, okay, now that that's annulled and I'm trying to move forward with my career and take control, now I'm all over the tabloids for having a baby, a secret baby that I'm hiding, that no one knows about. Now, of course, everybody knows about that infamous secret baby Janet picture, the young lady who looks exactly like Janet, or other pictures, but it's just like, these are other family members, these are my nieces. This isn't anything like that, but just for people to think that I could even do something like that. And it kind of went more into just people in general having their family in the tabloids and taking who they are for people for granted. Like, we are people. You publish these things and they are known around the world, and it's not true. Like, how could you do that? When she freaking said, I could never hide a baby from James, I could never do that to James, I was like, I really felt like she loved her some James. Now, I really did enjoy the segment of her discussing the shift that she felt happened with Michael once he got into the Thriller era Michaels. Just like, before that, even the albums and the music with the brothers, even, his Off the Wall project, we listened to everything. We shared so much together and spent so much time together. But once that Thriller Michael epic shit happened, I felt like he didn't belong to me anymore. And that resonated with me so much. It's just crazy with them being both so iconic and how big Michael is. Everybody, especially, I don't even care about today. Even today, fans aren't anything compared to all the Beehive and the little Nicki Minaj's. I don't know if they call themselves unicorns. I don't know. Nobody's fandom is topping Michael Jackson's fucking fans. It was past, I need another word for pandemonium. This shit was so big. They felt like, every single person felt like Michael belonged to them. So if he's belonging to millions of other people, how can he just be my brothers? He got so big, so busy, became so distant. Everybody just wanted a piece of Michael. You have shit with fans just they just fucking melt and die at the sight of him. He's so massive at this point that the Michael, the brother that I knew, is just a figment of my imagination. He belongs to the public now. He can't just be my brother. And not just with Michael, just the whole family. In a sense, there's just such a sense of them being distant, as massive as they are, and how career oriented the entire family was for so long. And then we have Janet and Michael, and of course we know that the other siblings tried to have their own solo careers, as far as Latoya and Rebe. Everybody tried to have a moment. There's just such a sense of a loneliness surrounding her. It just felt a little lifeless. It was like, girl, she just needed a hug. Now, we spend much of part 2 strictly with her finding her voice and her independence, and her being, the word stubborn is thrown around a whole lot. Her being tough, her not being afraid to go against the grain. You gonna fire your daddy? You gonna fire Joe? And it's just the courage that she must have had to, even though with him being who he is, I know what I need for myself. And if I'm gonna have a career, if I'm gonna be pushed into this, I wanna do it my way. And there's this push, I better be successful now. I fired my dad. I've probably caused a rift. If I don't pop off now, it was all for nothing. So there's just pressure for her to hit and discover her sound. And she's introduced to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, producer gold, fucking legendary. They have touched so much, and they discuss touching on that Control album. And you just go through the production of it all, and her just coming out of her her shell. She was so shy. I remember before I really just knew who she was as an artist and her aura and just how I was like, girl, the whole little soft spoken, like I'm just so shy. Like, Janet, stop putting on for people. I was like, no. Once I got more into her as a performer and a person, I realized that that is just truly who she was due to her upbringing and how much control was over her. She was very much so introverted. But we have Jimmy and Terry pulling the most out of her that they possibly can as a performer. Like, girl, push yourself. Like, it was very much DJ, push that shit out, girl. We want you to sing. We want you to give it all you got. Put some stank on that. Put some funk on that. We know you can give us more. And we also have her hiring Paula Abdul from the Lakers, like her giving her, like, you know, that strength that she needs to dance. Like, just to think that she would ever need that, because she's such a great performer, has so much stage presence. But they are helping her, you know, reach that goal and pulling that out of her. And we get more into, you know, control blowing up and her getting her name out there, getting on those charts, and we get sitting in a movie show thinking nasty thoughts. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, you nasty boys. Ow, nasty. We get into nasty boys. Who's that eating that nasty food? You get into Janet coming out of her bubble. Like, when we got into her relationship with Rene and them becoming an item, and of course it becoming more of a secret, them embarking on a marriage, I wouldn't even listen to none of that, because they were playing Funny How Time Flies When You're Having Fun. I was like, come on, Janet, that is the cut, it's the lick. Say you love me so. I was getting my life. I was like, yes. But we get into their relationship. She is really coming into her own, and you see that every single person, whether it's on production, choreography, friends, her relationship choices, everybody around her in her inner circle is bringing more out of her. She's becoming more of the Janet, Miss Jackson if you're nasty, that we know. Now, we do have a lot of old footage here courtesy of Rene and their relationship, and just seeing them in their innocent element. It felt really lonely though when she went, I think the reviewer asked her, you know, did this marriage feel different than it did with James DeBarge? She was like, well, yeah, he never proposed to me. He never really just gave me a ring. So of course it felt different. I was in a different headspace, in a different element, but I always think that this time is the one. I always think it feels different. It just feels like, damn, like it's never what I think it is with these men, even up until today. And I don't know if you know she has a significant other, but we know that, you know, she isn't married. But it's like, I always think that guy. This time I got it right. I thought this was my forever, and we know that it wasn't. Now, of course, in the era of that Control album, we not only have her discovering herself as a woman and a person, but we have her discovering herself musically as a performer. You know, she's gotten a whole lot better. She's performing at her best. She's getting her name out there more. She's on the charts. She's no longer feeling like, you know, maybe I can do this. I'm feeling really good about what I'm putting out in my career choices. But she could not escape the stigma of being compared to Michael Jackson. Of course, at this moment, this is 80s. Your butt is mine. Don't show your face in broad daylight. If you say it's got to live. But my friend, you have to do nothing. Because you know, I just went off on a whole tangent. You know what? It don't even matter. Nobody was bigger than Michael in the 80s. Like, nobody was touching him. I wouldn't want to be a performer trying to be out there and be big, and Michael was there. Like, nobody was touching him. So to be the sister and be in the shadow is just like, well, yeah, I can't even be my own individual performer because I'm always being compared. I'm always going to be just another Jackson. I'm always going to be, you know, riding off the coattails of Michael in the Jackson 5. I want to be my own individual, have my own things. I have my own sound, my own image. I want to be just as big and just as important as my brother. You literally have people, like, oh my God, like, you want my autograph? No, how's Michael? Where's Michael? Have you seen Michael? Like, I was like, y'all don't get the hell out of her face. Like, the rudeness. And it's just like, there's just such a lonely aspect to her life. And it's just like, I don't even know who's genuinely my friend and close to me just because they want to be close to me. Like, you might just want to be get next to me just because of who I am and who my brother is. Like, it's absolutely no way to live. Now, with her carrying around that stigma and Michael being so goddamn big, it is just like, you know what, my second album, I don't have time for a sophomore jinx. It needs to hit just as hard, and we get into the Rhythm Nation, y'all. We get into the Rhythm Nation. I love with how reserved she is. It was just such a big statement that no, Janet has a voice. She's stubborn. She don't want to record the same song 5 times. Like, oh no, I'm done. It's not working. Like, if we're not gonna get it right, let's not do it at all. I'm just like, it was like really big for them to show footage of her, you know, talking back and having a voice and having an attitude. And because we see her give that on stage, she has very much a big, you know, persona on stage, but off it's very so just to have Rene have footage of her yelling, like, I'm just over it. But I just love the fact that they pushed her so much, and we hear her recording the songs, and it's just like, that's Rhythm Nation, but it's not. But not even just recording, I did not know that she has so much input into the production of her music, more on the writing. Like, I didn't know that she was that involved with not only, you know, the look, the production, the music, the choreography, the tour. Like, she was very much hands-on. This wasn't just, you know, her being at the hands of somebody else and they're doing everything, making everything happen. It's like, no, not only do I have a hand in that, but I'm also going to get a little political with this record. I'm going to talk about things that are going on within our community, and we're not going to tell the record label. I'm just going to put it out because I do that shit and I'm Janet. Like, she was really making big moves, but it was just so low-key and discreet. They maybe went unnoticed, but for her to do Rhythm Nation at the time that she did, it was very huge. But at that point, we have a lot of that pressure lifting. She is, you know, kind of neck and neck with Michael. He's doing, you know, Thriller and Bad. And of course, he is everything. But it's like, okay, yeah, but I'm Janet. And now, you know, you guys know that I'm Janet. You know that I have a voice. I have a perspective, that I'm a great performer. And her really gearing up for that Rhythm Nation tour and how big it was. It was the biggest of its time, and it's still the biggest now for a debut tour. And how much she kind of pulled from Michael, like, oh my God, this is great. I want to do a lot of this with my tour. Like, he was such an inspiration for her. But just to see how scared she was, like, everybody knows if you happen to get a ticket to a Janet Jackson concert, any tour, I don't care when it is, she is gonna perform the fucking house down. It is such an experience. She is such a skilled performer. But to see just how nervous she was, and like, oh my God, I hope this tour is good. Oh my God, I hope they buy tickets. Oh my God, who are all those people here to see? Are they here for me? Like, people actually came to see me? Hell yeah. But she is established now. We also see that Rene was very much so involved in her career. I don't know why I always think of him as just old dude from the Velvet Rope album with the hands on the tatas, and I know they were in a relationship. I never really dove much into him as a person or him delivering anything on a musical standpoint, a choreographer standpoint, or just being a real helping hand in her career. But he had a lot to say so and was making different moves as far as she was concerned, and her whole stage presence. I was like, oh, I didn't know he had, you know, that much say so. I don't know, it seemed like it was a little problem via a couple of people in the doc, but I'm hoping we'll get more into that in part 3. But we end off with her just feeling phenomenal. Like, yes, I have finally arrived. My album is doing well. People acknowledge me as, you know, I'm not just Michael's little sister. I am fucking Janet. Things are looking up. But we also leave off with the elements of the stigma that came along with being associated with Michael Jackson at the height of those allegations. And we're going to pick up with that with part 3, and you hear her say, you know, I believe it's called being guilty by association. And I'm really interested to listen to that, because it's like, well, damn, I never really thought about how those moments affected her career. I strictly only thought about, of course, the family as a whole, but just Michael and how he dealt with that. But I never really thought about what it would be like to be there in that time and have your brother, not even another, this is your family, being accused of something. Like, how was she treated? What was said? Like, what went on? I can't wait to hear about it. Well, you guys, that was my review for part 1 and 2 of the Janet Jackson documentary. I hope you enjoyed it. Please drop down and let me know if I left out anything. If you've seen it, did I touch on something? If you haven't seen it, did I make you want to watch it? Or if you just don't have Lifetime and you didn't get into it, did I make you feel informed? You know what I'm saying? I'm here to help. Drop down and get those comments going. I will definitely be back for part 3 and 4. Bye.